If you just got Rise Vision set up, or you're about to, this video is going to walk you through what your first 7 days should look like. From getting your first display online, all the way through to having multiple departments running their own screens by the end of the week. Now, we've onboarded 5,700 schools and tens of thousands of organizations onto Rise Vision, so we know what it looks like when you want to make your screens relevant and you want to make sure that they actually get used instead of having them sit blank in a hallway for 6 months. So, let's dive right in. Day 1, getting your first display live. Since Rise Vision is designed to get up and running in minutes, the first thing you want to do on day 1 is get a single display connected and running content. Whether you're going to be managing 1 screen or 100 screens across the entire building, the setup process itself is pretty much the same. So starting with that first display is the fastest way to learn the system before adding the rest of your screens. What makes day 1 so simple is that Rise Vision works with the screens and devices that you already have. So you don't need to buy any new equipment to get started. This includes commercial TVs, smart displays, and interactive flat panels that you already have mounted in your classrooms, hallways, and lobbies. On the media player side, Rise Vision runs on Android, Windows, Linux, Chromebooks, Raspberry Pis, Amazon Sign-In Sticks, and even more. So in most cases, you don't need to buy anything to get started. You just connect a media player that you already own to a screen that's already mounted. If you'd rather get hardware made specifically for digital signage, then you can get one of our Rise Vision media players or Avacor displays to use, but those are entirely optional. Once you've picked your hardware, the setup process itself is pretty short. It's the same 3 steps regardless of what operating system you're using. First, you create your Rise Vision account and you head to the displays page. Next, you install the Rise Player application on your device or your media player, as we commonly refer to it, that's connected to your screen. Once installed, the Rise Player generates an activation code that shows right there on the screen. You enter that into your dashboard that links that display to your account. From that point forward, any change that you make in the dashboard shows up on that screen, whether you have 1 display or 500. So once you have that first screen live, adding more is just following the same 3 steps. And because everything runs in the cloud, you don't need to walk over to that display every time you want to make a change, like swapping a USB key in and out or updating content manually like you would with most static signage that schools and organizations are in the process of replacing. Day 2 to 3 is building your first content from our templates. Now that your first display is online, the next 2 to 3 days are going to be about putting content on it. And the fastest way to do that is to use our templates instead of designing your content from scratch. Rise Vision has over 750 templates that you can use. So you just pick the one that fits what the screen needs to show, you swap in your text and logo and school or company colors, and you're ready to go. This allows someone with 0 design experience to get a good looking screen in a matter of minutes. One presentation can cycle through all sorts of different types of content. So a hallway screen can show a calendar, then announcements, then student recognition, then a menu, all on the same screen. All you do is set the order, the duration that each item plays for, and the playlist runs on autopilot from there. The other thing to do during day 2 and 3 is to connect the tools that you already use. So the content on your screen updates itself instead of someone having to log into Rise Vision every time content is supposed to change. For example, the Google Calendar and the Outlook integration, they pull in those updates automatically. So when something is added or rescheduled on the calendar, it shows up on the display without anybody having to mess with it. Same thing with Canva, where the integration syncs your designs directly into Rise Vision. So when your communications or marketing team updates a file in Canva, it updates in Rise Vision automatically. Days 4 to 5 are all about handing over content ownership. Now that your content's live, days 4 and 5 are about setting up the right people to manage the content on those screens. Because the schools and organizations that actually keep using their displays long term, they're the ones where specific people manage the content for their own area instead of everything routing through one admin. If IT or one admin person is responsible for updating all the content, so the moment that they have a busy week or get sick, nothing on the screens is going to get updated and everything stops being relevant. So this is what makes sure that your screens keep on getting used past that first week. The way you do this in Rise Vision is through user roles and permissions, where you give each person access to the exact displays that they're responsible for and nothing more. From the user section, you add a person by entering their email, and you assign them a role that controls what they can see and what they can change. So the front office maybe runs the lobby and hallway displays, the athletic director runs the gym, HR runs the staff display, the cafeteria leads the menu board, and none of them can mess with each other's content. And IT just keeps overall control of brand standards and the permission structure itself, without having to be involved in every single content change. For larger organizations or districts, the next step would be to set up single sign-on, which removes the need to manually create accounts for each user in Rise Vision. Rise Vision works with your existing login system so staff can use the same username and password that they use to log into everything else. And user provisioning happens automatically through your identity provider, so when someone joins or leaves the organization, their access updates automatically without anyone having to manage it manually. Optionally, if you want a review step before the content goes live, you can also turn on content approval workflows. This is useful when you have department staff submitting content, but the principal wants to have final sign off on any content that's going out to the screens. So submitted content will sit in an approval queue and nothing goes on the screens until the publisher gives it the okay, which gives you a review step without having to slow down the people creating the content. Days 6 and 7 are all about screen sharing and emergency alerts. By day 6, you have your signage running, you have the content updating itself, and the right people are managing their own screens. Now, with that set up, now let's talk about screen sharing. Most schools or organizations have interactive flat panels or large displays in classrooms or meeting rooms that they already use for presentations. But the screen sharing experience is usually kind of a hassle. So what Rise Vision screen sharing does is turn those same displays into wireless presentation hubs. So now anyone can share to that screen from their device without any sort of adapter or cable or dedicated app. The way it works is built around 2 different modes that cover pretty much any situation that comes up in a classroom or a meeting room. Standard mode is quick one-on-one sharing. That's where someone walks into the room, they open up their browser, and they're sharing to the display within seconds. Moderated mode is for situations where you need a bit more control, like a teacher at the front of a classroom or a presenter in a meeting room, where the moderator approves which users can share before anything shows up on the screen. On top of that, Code Connect makes sure that people are sharing to the right screen, since the display shows a code that the presenter needs to enter before anything shows up on the screen. It also works across separate networks, which is important because most schools or organizations are running student or guest devices on a different VLAN than staff devices. So a student on a guest network and a teacher on a staff network can both share to the same display without IT having to do any sort of extra network setup. The last thing to set up before we can call week 1 done is to connect your existing emergency alert system to Rise Vision, which is what turns every display you have into a live safety layer. If your school or organization is already using an emergency management tool like CrisisGo or AlertUs or Informacast or any of the others that Rise Vision works with, the connection only takes a few minutes through your account settings. From the moment that integration is live, any alerts fired through your emergency management system will show up on all your displays automatically, so your staff doesn't have to log in and trigger anything manually. That override happens regardless of what's on the screens at the time. So even a panel that's actively showing a presentation will switch over to that alert immediately. For spaces where seeing the alert might not be enough, audio alerts can also play the same time that the message appears. Because in areas with a lot of background noise like gyms or a busy cafeteria or a large open lobby, people aren't always looking at the screen, so the audio makes sure everybody is aware of the alert. Now, if you want to see how Rise Vision would work for you in your specific buildings with your existing hardware, you can get a free demo by clicking the first link in the description. You'll get a full walkthrough of the platform from the team, and from there, we can help you figure out the best way of getting it running across your organization. So again, you can get your free demo by clicking on the first link in the description, and if you want to learn the easiest way to do screen sharing in your school, then check out this next video.